Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
January 9, 2020, the I Am Not a Crook edition. Ghosn continues to be in the news as he held his first press conference. How very exciting. As reported in the Wall Street Journal, he berated Japan, Nissan executives, and basically everyone else for his putative flight from justice out of Japan, saying he had no choice but to flee. Of course, the implicit in that is he's guilty as hell, but of course he didn't admit that. He said it was unscrupulous and vindictive competitors within the company of Nissan that led to his imprisonment. Nissan, of course, says it's because he was stealing from the company. But it's always great when corporate wars go to this level. So I'm sure we haven't heard the last from Ghosn, and he now is fully channeling his inner Tricky Dicky. So let's keep that up. Boeing, it just gets worse. As reported in the Washington Post, and I think probably most people have heard the tragedy in Iran yesterday where a Ukrainian International Airlines jet crashed shortly after takeoff from Iran heading to Ukraine. Investigators are scrambling to determine what caused the crash. This was not a 737 MAX, it was a 737-800. The original or the early reports from Iranian state media attributed the crash to engine failure. The Iranian embassy issued a statement ruling out terrorism, but then removed it without explanation. So we're going to have to wait for this. But this is just more bad news for Boeing. If other planes start crashing, it's really going to negatively impact the company's attempt to get back on its feet after the disastrous 737 MAX series of issues. I've been a partner in a law firm, and partner meetings can be congenial. They can be competitive, but here's one I'd love to be at. King and Spalding, as Rod Rosenstein, reported by the Wall Street Journal, has joined the firm of King and Spalding. What makes this particular partner meeting so interesting is that Sally Yates is a partner at King and Spalding. I don't believe that Rosenstein directly had anything to do with firing Sally Yates and was brought in after she left. Nevertheless, the stench of the Trump administration on Rosenstein is certainly going to be antithetical to the values that Sally Yates put forward while she was heading the Department of Justice during the waning end of the Obama administration and the first few days of the Trump administration, waiting for the new Attorney General, William Sessions, to take over. So that would be a fun partner meeting, and if you've ever been a partner in a law firm, you know what I mean. And finally, from the Wall Street Journal Risk and Compliance Journal, banks are now taking a closer look at ESG matters in deciding whether to lend to certain corporate borrowers. 67% of banks now screen their loan portfolios for environmental, social, and governance risks, according to a survey published by Fitch. At some banks, this means making commitments to stop lending to companies viewed as high risk, such as those who operate in the private prison or manufacturing firearms industries. In others, it involves collaboration among credit underwriters, sustainability experts, and investor relations to review potential credits. This is certainly a more succinct and greater level of due diligence. And while banks rarely rely on ESG factors alone, it's very interesting and progressive that they are finally taking this into account. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio.